G'day guys, hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another episode of Adventure News. We've got Royal Enfield caught out testing a 650 Scrambler, Suzuki planning a new variant of the Vstrom 800DE, Triumph Scrambler 400 is back in the news, and lastly I want to talk about the 2024 Africa Twin, which is getting some significant updates, and one of them is very surprising indeed. So let's just jump straight in. I want to start with Royal Enfield's 650 Scrambler that's been spied once again testing out in the wild. And it looks like Royal Enfield is getting in on the game with their 650 Twin, basically using that Interceptor 650 platform and turning it into a Scrambler. So we already know that great little motor makes around 47 horsepower and 52 newton meters of torque. The other things in the picture that are really interesting is it looks like it's got a 1917 wheel combo, and those wheels are also spokes. So that means it's definitely going to have some dirt capability, so they thought about this thing being ridden off-road. We can also see a top rack in those pictures, so you're going to have some practicality there. You can also see panniers in the shot as well. I think a lot of motorcycle firms are twigging onto the fact that people that are buying Scramblers are actually wanting to do adventure riding on these bikes. It looks like Royal Enfield has noticed that trend and is offering some practical options. Now the big hurdles this bike is going to have is one, the ground clearance. Is it going to have more travel than say the Interceptor 650? That is really important if it's going to have increased off-road capability. The second thing is these motors, the 650 motors, aren't exactly lightweight. Is it going to be lighter than say the Interceptor? I don't think it's going to be a massive problem considering you're probably not going to be doing any serious off-road, but it would be nice to see them try and trim a little bit of weight if they can. What I think is most exciting here is I got a lot of comments over the years of people asking, when is Royal Enfield going to make a 650 adventure bike based on this gem of a parallel twin motor? If it has a decently sized petrol tank and good fuel range, which these 650s generally do, you've got that top rack, the saddlebags there. If you've got ground clearance, you've already got the spoke wheels and that 19-inch front wheel. You've basically got yourself an adventure bike already there. But if you're really holding out basically for a Himalayan 650, here's the argument that we could be moving closer to that. This is Royal Enfield's first step into the dirt with the 650 platform. If this does well and they see there is demand for a more off-road capable version of the 650 once the Scrambler's out and they see people taking these things into the dirt, they could see the market there and try and answer the market with a 650 Himalayan. So I think this is a positive step towards the Himalayan. Is it a foregone conclusion? Certainly not. It's still a very slim chance, but we are closer to a 650 Himalayan with the advent of this Scrambler. I'm really excited to see how this bike does.
Start it up.
Thanks to CARB filings in the USA, it looks like Suzuki might be planning a new variant of the Vstrom 800DE. What's been missing in the lineup is what the Vstrom was so popular for, and that's adventure touring. The base model had cast wheels, lower suspension, and was just great at long distance riding and had a little bit of dirt capability for when you did want to get off the beaten track, as well as offering a lot of value for your money. When the new model was released, Suzuki focused on their dirt model with 21-inch front, spoke wheels, decent travel suspension, and all the fruit to make it off-road capable. But what was missing was that really popular adventure touring model, and that's the theory with these CARB filings, that we're likely going to see a more adventure touring road focused variant. They're likely to follow the recipe of having that model variation with dropping the suspension, ditching the spoke wheels for cast wheels, having a 19-inch front, dialing down the off-road capability and focusing on on-road capability. And I'm quite excited for this. Even though I love riding off-road, I think the Vstrom's wheelhouse was really that adventure touring and that high value to customers. The fact that they're sticking to their roots and they're going to be offering this model, I think is a very smart move from Suzuki, but I'd love to know your thoughts. Chuck them down below. Next up, we've got Triumph's brand new 400s back in the news. I talked last month in depth about the Speed 400 and in particular the Scrambler 400. I was very shocked that they actually made it dirt capable and offered a whole bunch of accessories and turned it into quite a little adventure bike, which was really positive. But we've got more positive news because it looks like it's not only me and you guys that are excited about this bike, because pre-orders have outstripped supply for both the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400, which is fantastic news. And I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent why that is the case. The base case here is it shows Triumph that there really is a market for small displacement motorcycles, and in particular small displacement motorcycles like the Scrambler that can go off-road. I'm hoping that Triumph will notice customers going into the accessory line and getting the stuff that turns the Scrambler into more of an adventure bike, and that they see their customers going into the dirt with this bike. Because if they see that, they might think to themselves, you know what, we should either make a more dirt focused Scrambler version like they do with a big 1200cc, or they might think to themselves, we should probably do a Tiger 400, which would be absolutely fantastic. Of course, that may not ever happen, but whenever a manufacturer sees enthusiasm and a window to make more money, they're likely going to do it. If they see a lot of people moving in droves towards this Scrambler 400 and trying to make it more dirt capable, we might just be on a winner here. But I'd love to know your thoughts. If Triumph were to go down the path of a more dirt capable bike, would you like to see an XE or a rally version of the Scrambler 400, or would you love to see a Tiger 400? Chuck your thoughts down below. Next up, we've got the 2024 Africa Twin. We've got some type approval documents, so that's patents being filed by Honda. That always drags up some interesting development. With patents, you've got to remember that this is generally the design thoughts and processes that Honda are having. These aren't necessarily going to make it to the production line of the Africa Twin, but some of these are going to be a very high likelihood. So the two major ones, of course, are the radar. Most big flagship adventure bikes are getting radar systems. It's becoming a standard feature of the big adventure bikes. The other interesting one is direct injection being a strong possibility. That's going to help with performance, fuel economy, and emissions. So those three things are all very high priorities in modern motorcycles. The third one is the most outlandish and the least likely of making it to the production floor, but it is a very interesting road to go down and does hold a little bit of logic if you think it out, which I'm going to do. And that's that Honda are thinking about strapping a supercharger to the 2024 Africa Twin. A little bit out there, but certainly once you think about it, really starts to make a little bit of sense. I think we've all noticed there's a bit of an arms race in the flagship adventure bikes at the moment. They're all heading towards crazy power figures and big motors. And one of the things that the CRF 1100L has struggled to do is meet the power characteristics of the other big adventure bikes. Strapping a supercharger to your motorcycle will fix that problem pretty damn quickly. So that's one of the ways that could be quite cost effective, stay competitive in the big flagship adventure bike market without having to increase the size of the motor once again and throw more money into R&D, which they might not be able to do because they've already done that once, or scrapping that motor and developing a whole new motor. Those are very expensive tasks. So bolting a supercharger is quite a cost-effective measure. The other reason that makes me think that Honda are actually thinking about this is the fact that it's not a turbocharger. Whenever you hear about a motorcycle reaching the production floor and it's going to have a turbocharger, I always discount that, because we discovered in the 80s that turbos really don't make much sense on a motorcycle because of the power characteristics. You've got that turbo lag, they tend to kick in the mid-range and give you real high-end power. And you don't want a turbo kicking in mid-corner, as they discovered with catastrophic results, because it means you break traction and you end up in the bushes. Whereas a supercharger, it's much more linear in its power delivery and it's much lower in the rev range. You don't have that lag. You tend to get all the power in the bottom and mid-range, and it tapers off towards the higher revs. Not only are you getting a more predictable power delivery, but you're also getting that power delivered where an adventure bike needs it most, in the low and mid-range power. So I think it makes a lot of sense if you think it through, crazy as the idea sounds. Now, where it does fall down a little for me is it is adding another layer of complication and something that can go wrong when you're out in the middle of nowhere on one of these Africa Twins. And people do really take these Africa Twins into some pretty serious terrain and far away places. Do you want that added layer of complexity on your adventure bike? The other thing I'd like to point out here is that manufacturers like to play funny games with patents. They'll often file ideas that are complete red herrings to throw journos and the media off, because they know people go through these filings with a fine-tooth comb. So that's another possibility that Honda are just trying to throw us off the trail here with something shiny like a supercharger to keep us looking at the shiny thing over here, while the real trick is going on behind the scenes. I'd love to know your thoughts. Is a supercharger the kind of thing you're looking for on your adventure bike, or do you think it's going to be a problem? So that's it for this month's adventure news. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. If you liked the video, hit that like button, consider subscribing and joining this fantastic off-road community. And as always, guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one.